My name is Julia Sanders. I'm 37 years old, and 2 months ago, I thought I was 3 weeks away from the happiest day of my life. Today, I'm rebuilding everything from the ground up. I own a specialized metal fabrication shop. Started it 10 years ago in my garage with one welding table and a stubborn belief that I could build something that lasted. Now I run a full production facility with 12 employees and contracts that keep me up at night in the best way. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying it because stability mattered to me. I built my life carefully, deliberately. That's why I thought I chose my partner the same way. I met Ethan Brooks 3 years ago through mutual friends. He worked in financial consulting. Sharp, charming, the kind of man who could explain complex systems in a calm, confident voice. He listened when I talked about torque tolerances and supply delays. He made me feel seen in a world where I was usually the only woman in steel-toed boots. We moved fast. Too fast, some people said, but it felt right. He proposed after 18 months on a quiet evening at home, no audience, no spectacle. Just him, slightly nervous, holding out a ring that once belonged to his grandmother. I said yes without hesitation. We planned the wedding for May 15th. Lakeside Gardens, custom rings, honeymoon in Bali. I put down nearly $12,000 in deposits, but I structured every contract with contingency clauses. Ethan teased me for it, called it business brain. I called it experience. 2 months before the wedding, things shifted. Nothing dramatic, just off. Ethan was suddenly always on his phone, working late, turning his screen away when I walked by. When I asked, he blamed stress, family stuff, pressure. I believed him because I wanted to. I picked up more of the wedding planning, told myself love meant flexibility. Looking back, I see how many excuses I made for him. Then came the text. It was a Wednesday afternoon, 3 weeks before the wedding. Need to postpone the wedding, family emergency. That was it. No explanation, no call. I replied immediately. Understood. Let me know what you need. I meant it. I was worried. Ethan had mentioned an aunt who helped raise him after his parents divorced. I called his mother to offer support. She sounded confused. What emergency? She asked. There's no aunt in Phoenix, Julia. The room went quiet around me. I tried calling Ethan. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. I waited. Told myself there was a misunderstanding. There had to be. The next morning, Instagram made the decision for me. A mutual friend tagged Ethan in photos. I opened them with a knot already forming in my stomach. White sand, blue water, smiling faces. And there he was, shirtless, relaxed, his arm wrapped around a woman I recognized instantly. Lauren, his ex-girlfriend. The one he'd called toxic. The one who was ancient history. The timestamps told the story clearly. These photos were posted hours after his family emergency text. This wasn't an accident. It was planned. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took screenshots and sat very still. Something in me went cold. I didn't call him. I didn't confront him. I waited. Because if he was willing to lie this easily, I wanted to know how far he'd go. 3 days later, he finally called. Hey, Jules, he said casually. Sorry, it's been chaos here. He launched into a story. Hospital complications, family drama, exhaustion. I let him talk. Then I asked softly, how's the weather in Phoenix? Hot, he replied instantly. You know, desert heat. I paused. And Cancun? Silence. The water looked beautiful in those photos, I continued. You and Lauren seemed happy. He tried to backpedal, tried to explain, tried to minimize. And in that moment, standing in the kitchen of the home we shared, I realized something devastatingly clear. The wedding wasn't the first thing he postponed. It was the truth. The silence on the line wasn't just quiet. It was weight. Like the air had thickened around my head, and I could suddenly hear every tiny sound in my kitchen. The hum of the fridge, the faint ticking of the wall clock, my own breath moving in and out like it was trying to convince me I was still safe. Julia, Ethan finally said, voice low, cautious, you're misunderstanding. I leaned my hip against the counter and stared at the grain of the wood, like it might rearrange itself into a better reality. Am I? I asked. Calm, almost polite. Because your mother says there's no aunt in Phoenix, and your friend tagged you in Cancun. He exhaled hard. That was complicated. Complicated. That word always shows up when the truth is too ugly to say out loud. I didn't interrupt him. I didn't raise my voice. I just let him keep talking, because I learned something running a business. People reveal themselves best when you don't rush them. It wasn't what it looks like, he said quickly. Lauren reached out. She's been going through a lot. And I Look, I didn't want to stress you out right before the wedding. My fingers tightened around my phone. You didn't want to stress me out, I repeated, slow. So you lied about a family emergency. Julia. And you took a vacation with your ex-girlfriend, I added, my voice still level like I was reading an invoice. 3 weeks before our wedding. He swallowed. I could hear it. It was 3 days, he said, like that number made it smaller. Like betrayal came in acceptable quantities. I stared at the window over the sink. The neighborhood was bright and normal outside. People walking dogs, a teenager on a bike, the world refusing to stop spinning while mine cracked open. Come home, I said. I will, he promised instantly, grateful for the lifeline. Tonight. We'll talk, I swear. It's not what you think. I didn't correct him. Because it was worse. He came home late. I heard the garage door first, then the familiar rhythm of his footsteps through the mudroom, like a man returning from a long day at work, not a man returning from 3 days of lies and beaches and his ex-girlfriend's perfume. When he walked into the kitchen, he looked like he'd tried to prepare. Hair neatly styled, clean button-down shirt, even his eyes, slightly red, like he'd practiced looking remorseful in the mirror. I'm so sorry, he said immediately. I didn't move. I sat at the table with my laptop open, screenshots neatly arranged in a folder like evidence in a case file. He glanced at them and flinched. I panicked, he said, stepping closer. You know how wedding stress has been. And Lauren, she's been a mess. She called me crying, saying she needed to see me, just once. I watched his hands while he spoke. He was gesturing too much, like he was trying to physically push the truth out of the room. She needed closure, he continued. And before we got married, I wanted to close that chapter fully. For us. For you. It was almost impressive how he could package selfishness into something that sounded like love. I didn't speak, I just looked at him. He added quickly, nothing happened. That was the first time my calm cracked. I gave a single, short laugh. Not because it was funny, but because the audacity hit like a slap. Nothing happened, I echoed. Ethan, you were photographed with your arm around her. On a beach. On a boat. At dinner. Smiling like you didn't have a fiancé at home. His jaw tightened. You're focusing on pictures, he said, defensiveness creeping in like a stain. You don't know the context. Oh, I know the context, I said softly. The context is you lied to me. The context is you fabricated a family emergency. The context is you let me worry about someone who doesn't exist while you drank cocktails with Lauren. His face flushed, anger and embarrassment fighting for space. She does exist, he snapped, then seemed to realize what he'd said and stopped. I tilted my head. And he knew. He knew I caught it. His voice dropped again. Okay, fine. It wasn't Phoenix. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want you freaking out. My hands folded neatly on the table. Freaking out, I repeated. Ethan, I weld metal for a living. I manage 12 employees, vendor disasters, and deadlines that could crush a business if I blink wrong. But you thought I couldn't handle the truth that you wanted to see your ex-girlfriend? His eyes flickered. He hated that I wasn't screaming. Hated that I wasn't messy. Because if I stayed calm, he couldn't label me irrational. And then he said it. The line that made something inside me go numb. Don't be insecure, Julia. There it was. Not guilt. Not shame. A diagnosis. Like my pain was a flaw in me. He kept going, emboldened by his own twisted logic. This is exactly why I couldn't tell you, he insisted. You'd make it into something dramatic. I needed closure, that's all. I leaned forward slightly. Did this closure involve sharing a hotel room? His breath hitched. He didn't answer. The lack of denial was louder than any confession. My chest tightened, but my voice didn't waver. The wedding is off. His face changed instantly, like a mask slipping. What? He barked. Julia, come on. The wedding is in less than 3 weeks. Everything's paid for. And there it was. Not our relationship. Not our trust. The money. My stomach turned with disgust. Not at Lauren, not even at the trip, but at the fact that this was what he cared about most when I said my heart was done. I've already started making calls, I said quietly. He stepped closer, panic rising now, real and ugly. You can't do this, he said. Where am I supposed to go? I gave up my apartment when I moved in here. I looked up at him. Then that's something you should have thought about before you lied and ran off with Lauren. His eyes sharpened. He was angry now. Not at himself, at me, for refusing to absorb the damage he caused. So you're just going to throw everything away? He demanded. I nodded once. Yes. For a moment, his face twisted like he was about to explode. Then he switched tactics, softening, voice breaking. Julia, please, I made a mistake. It was just 3 days. I stood slowly, pushing my chair back. No, I said, voice low and steady. It wasn't 3 days. It was every moment you chose to lie. Every moment you watched me plan a wedding while you planned a getaway. Every moment you decided I wasn't worthy of honesty. His eyes shimmered. I love you, he whispered. I held his gaze. Maybe you do, I said, but love without respect is just ownership with nicer words. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I pointed toward the hallway. You can sleep in the guest room tonight, I said. Tomorrow evening, you'll be gone. He stared at me like he couldn't understand how I was still standing, like he expected me to beg. But I didn't, because as I watched him, this man I thought I knew, something inside me finally accepted the truth. If I married Ethan Brooks, I wouldn't just be marrying a liar. I'd be marrying someone who believed my boundaries were negotiable. And I'd spent 10 years building a business from nothing. I wasn't about to spend the rest of my life rebuilding myself from his ruins. He walked past me slowly, shoulders tense. At the doorway, he turned back. You're going to regret this, he muttered. I smiled faintly, not warm, not cruel, just certain. No, I said, I'm going to survive it. And when he disappeared down the hall, I sat back down at the table, opened my laptop, and stared at the list of wedding vendors. My cursor hovered over the first number, because I wasn't done. Not even close. I slept for exactly 3 hours that night. Not because I was crying, because my brain wouldn't stop organizing. At 5 a.m, I gave up, made coffee, and opened my laptop. The guest room door was closed. The house felt divided down the middle, like a fault line had opened between rooms that used to feel shared. I didn't check on Ethan. I didn't need to. I started with the venue. Lakeside Gardens, a woman answered, cheerful and practiced. My name is Julia Sanders, I said. I need to cancel a wedding scheduled for May 15th. There was a pause, just long enough to tell me she'd done this before. I'm sorry to hear that, she said gently. May I ask the reason? Infidelity, I replied. No dramatics, no elaboration. Another pause, then a sigh. You're not the first, she said quietly. If you can provide documentation, our contract allows a 75% refund. I sent screenshots before she finished the sentence. By noon, I'd spoken to the florist, the photographer, the caterer. Different voices, same tone, some sympathetic, some businesslike, all efficient. By the time Ethan woke up, I had already recovered just over $9,000. The remaining $3,000 felt like tuition. Expensive, but educational. When he came into the kitchen, eyes bleary, I didn't look up. You started canceling? He asked, disbelief creeping into his voice. Yes. He rubbed his face. You should have talked to me first. I finally met his gaze. I did, I said, for 3 years. That shut him up. After lunch, I called his parents. It wasn't an easy call, but it was a necessary one. They deserved the truth before rumors reached them, I explained calmly. Dates, facts, screenshots. His father was silent for a long moment. I'm sorry, Julia, he said at last. You deserve better than this. His mother cried. We didn't raise him like this, she kept repeating. I believed her, which somehow made it worse. That evening, while Ethan was out figuring things out, I packed. Not angrily, methodically. His clothes folded neatly into suitcases, shoes paired, electronics wrapped carefully, documents clipped together. The way I'd shut down a failing supplier once. Clean, professional, final. By the time he came home, his life was waiting by the door. He froze when he saw the boxes. What is this? He demanded. Your things. His eyes darted to my hand. I was holding the ring box. The engagement ring, I said. It was your grandmother's. I'd like it back. For a second, something like shame crossed his face. Then he scoffed. Keep it, he said, dropping it on the table. It's not like you can wear it now. I didn't flinch. I've canceled everything, I continued. Most of the deposits are refunded. He straightened instantly. How much? I almost laughed. That's your first question? I asked. Well, we should split whatever comes back, he said quickly. I paid for the photographer and the flowers. You paid $2,400, I replied calmly. I paid the rest, and you're the one who lied and cheated. So no, we won't be splitting anything. That's not fair, he snapped. I'm going to be homeless because of you. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You're going to be homeless because you chose to betray your fiancé 3 weeks before your wedding, I said. Actions have consequences. His mouth twisted. He grabbed a suitcase and stormed out, hurling insults over his shoulder like they might stick. I changed the locks that night. Then I poured myself 2 fingers of the whiskey I'd been saving for the wedding toast and sat alone in the quiet house. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. The next morning, a courier delivered an envelope. Legal letterhead. A cease and desist from an attorney, accusing me of defaming Ethan by spreading false allegations to his parents and vendors. I laughed out loud. It was a bluff, a tantrum in legal font. But it told me something important. Ethan still believed he was the victim. That's when I decided something in me hardened. I hadn't posted anything online. I'm a private person. I don't believe in public spectacle. But there's a line between privacy and silence, and he crossed it. That evening, I created a single post. No insults, no commentary, just two images side by side. The screenshot of his family emergency text, and the time-stamped photos of him in Cancun with Lauren. Caption: Why the wedding is canceled. Grateful I found out before the vows. I tagged him, his parents, our mutual friends, and because trust mattered in his profession, his colleagues. Then I closed my laptop. Within 24 hours, everything burned. Calls from blocked numbers, emails, messages through friends. I ignored them all. A week later, his mother called. "We've told Ethan he's not welcome here right now," she said, voice tight. "We need time." 3 days after that, Ethan showed up at my door. He looked nothing like the man who'd left. Eyes sunken, hair unwashed. Same clothes from the photos online. "My parents won't speak to me," he said. "Lauren's back with her ex. I'm on administrative leave. I have nowhere to go." I listened without expression. "Can I stay here?" he asked. "Just for a few weeks." I handed him a piece of paper. A storage unit address. Paid through the end of the month. "No," I said. "And no, you don't have anything here. You did this to me," he hissed. I met his gaze steady. "No," I said quietly. "You did this to yourself." I closed the door. And for the first time since that text message, the house felt like mine again. The wedding date came and went without ceremony. May 15th arrived like any other Saturday. Sunlight through the blinds, birds on the fence, the world stubbornly normal. I didn't dress in white. I wore work jeans and steel-toed boots and drove to the shop before anyone else arrived. I needed the sound of machines, the press brake cycling, the welder sparking, the smell of hot metal grounding me in something real. Work didn't ask me how I felt. It just demanded precision, and I was grateful for that. By then, the aftermath had already spread far beyond my control. Friends reached out quietly. Some apologized for not seeing the signs. Others admitted they had, but hadn't known how to tell me. A few disappeared altogether, unwilling to pick a side. I didn't chase anyone. Truth has a way of sorting people faster than confrontation ever could. A week after my post went up, I heard through mutual friends that Ethan had been placed on administrative leave pending an ethics review. Apparently lying, especially publicly documented lying, didn't sit well in an industry built on trust. I felt nothing when I heard. No satisfaction, no gloating, just confirmation. Then came the call from his mother. "I thought you should know," she said. "He's not staying with us. Not right now. His father and we're disappointed. We need space." I thanked her. That was all. Their relationship with their son wasn't my responsibility anymore. 3 days later, Ethan appeared again. This time I almost didn't open the door. But curiosity got the better of me. He looked worse. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble where his jaw used to be clean. His posture slumped, like gravity had finally decided to claim him. "Julia," he said before I could speak. "Please." I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "I'm not here to fight," he said quickly. I need help." "You should ask Lauren," I replied. He flinched. "She won't answer my calls," he muttered. "She went back to her ex. I was just convenient." The irony almost made me smile. Almost. "I lost my job," he continued. "My parents won't speak to me. I'm running out of money. I don't even recognize my life anymore." I studied him carefully. This was the moment he'd rehearsed. The final appeal. The version where he came broken enough that I'd feel obligated to fix him. "I made one mistake," he said desperately. "You made it into a public execution." I tilted my head. "One mistake?" I asked. "Ethan, you lied. You cheated. You gaslit me. You tried to intimidate me legally when I told the truth. Those weren't mistakes. Those were choices." His jaw tightened. "You didn't have to ruin me," he said bitterly. I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt something unexpected. Pity. "No," I said softly. "I didn't ruin you. I stopped protecting you from the consequences of who you are." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. "I loved you," he said quietly. "I believe you," I replied, "but love without integrity isn't enough, and it never was." Silence stretched between us. "Can I at least stay the night?" he asked. "Just one." I shook my head. "No." His expression hardened. "You think you're better than me now," he spat. "All this, your business, your composure, it's just ego." I smiled then, not cruel, not proud. "Just done." "This has nothing to do with ego," I said. "It has to do with decency, something you had dozens of chances to choose." I stepped back and opened the door. "I wish you luck," I added. "You're going to need it." And then I went inside and locked it. A month passed. My business landed a last-minute contract with a medical equipment supplier. Long hours, tight deadlines, exactly the kind of challenge I thrived on. The venue manager from Lakeside Gardens called me unexpectedly. We had a corporate client looking for a last-minute location for a charity gala, she said. Children's Hospital fundraiser. Would you be open to transferring your remaining deposit? The date worked. The cause mattered. I said yes. The event was a success. They sent me a framed photo afterward. Smiling kids, hospital gowns, bright colors. I put it on my desk at work. A reminder that something good can grow out of wreckage. I heard later that Ethan moved back to his hometown 4 states away. His social media went dark. According to his mother, who I still spoke to occasionally, he was staying with a distant cousin and working at an insurance call center. Trying to find himself. I hoped he did. Just far away from me. 2 months after the wedding date passed, I stopped waking up with that tight feeling in my chest. Not because I forgot, but because the memory no longer owned me. Life didn't magically become lighter. It just became clearer. The shop was thriving. We landed a new aerospace-adjacent contract that locked in steady work through the end of the year. I hired 2 more technicians. I started delegating more, trusting the team I'd built instead of carrying everything alone, something I realized I'd struggled with in relationships too. I went on a few casual dates, coffee, dinner, easy conversations with no expectations attached. I was honest up front. I wasn't rushing. Anyone who flinched at that wasn't meant to stay in my orbit. The engagement ring sat in my safe. Some people told me to sell it. Others said to return it to Ethan's family. But it wasn't about money. It was about time. Maybe one day it would find the right hand. Or maybe it would remain exactly where it was. Proof that love should be chosen carefully, not desperately. Ethan reached out once more. Not directly, through a mutual friend. He wanted to talk civilly, wanted closure. I declined. Not out of anger, out of completion. Some chapters don't need revisiting. They need shelving. His parents invited me to dinner not long after. I hesitated, but I went. They were good people, caught in a mess they didn't create. After dessert, his father pulled me aside. Sometimes the people we raise disappoint us, he said quietly. That doesn't mean we were wrong to love them. It just means they have their own path to walk. I nodded. I understood that now better than I ever had. A week later, Lakeside Gardens called again. The charity gala had exceeded expectations. They wanted to thank me formally for donating the remainder of the space. They mailed another framed photo. This one went on the wall in my office, not as a reminder of what I lost, but of what endured. If there's a lesson in all of this, it isn't about revenge or humiliation or even justice. It's simpler than that. A beautiful wedding lasts a day. Character lasts a lifetime. And I finally understand what my grandmother meant when she used to say, never fall in love with potential. Fall in love with patterns. I don't regret loving Ethan. I regret that he wasn't the man I thought he was. But regret doesn't mean ruin. It means growth. I lost a wedding. I gained my life back.